Hidden deep within the remote wilderness of Vermont lies the area surrounding Glastonbury Mountain, once home to native tribes and later a now abandoned mining town. Over time, this secluded region became the center of one of 20th century America's most chilling unsolved mysteries, the Bennington Triangle. From 1943 to 1950, 6 individuals of different ages and backgrounds vanished without a trace within a mere 5-mile radius around the town of Bennington. Strangely, every disappearance occurred between October and December, as if this land opened some mysterious gateway near the year's end, silently consuming those who unknowingly stepped into its grasp. The victims range from an experienced hunter, a war veteran, and a young boy, to a college student, a middle-aged housewife, and a 74-year-old man. There were no clear patterns in age, gender, or health, only one shared outcome. They all disappeared without explanation. Numerous theories have emerged in an attempt to explain this string of strange events. Mundane explanations such as getting lost, accidents, exposure to the elements, or even abduction have been considered. Yet most theories lack any conclusive evidence. The first disappearance occurred in the winter of 1943 near the remote woodland close to the small town of West Townshend, Vermont. Carl Herrick, a 38-year-old seasoned hunter who knew the forest trails and sounds intimately, suddenly vanished during what should have been an ordinary hunting trip near his home. When Carl failed to return after several hours, his family quickly raised the alarm, and a search party was formed. Days later, his body was found under a thick layer of snow, about 3 miles from his home, deep in the forest. But what truly unsettled everyone were the marks found in the snow and on Carl's body. There were claw marks in the snow and scratches on his skin, suggesting a possible wild animal attack. However, the lack of any signs of mauling or consumption was highly unusual. There were no bite wounds or deep gashes, typical in bear attacks, and the body had not been eaten. Instead, forensic analysis revealed the cause of death to be massive internal hemorrhaging caused by compression, as though something had gripped Carl tightly enough to rupture his blood vessels. This scenario didn't match known bear behavior. Bears attack to defend themselves or to hunt, and usually leave severe bite wounds, torn limbs, and significant blood at the scene. In Carl's case, there was only clawing, no chewing or tearing, no blood-soaked earth, and a death caused by crushing pressure. One theory proposed that Carl may have shot a bear, then carelessly put down his rifle to inspect the wounded animal, a dangerous mistake for such an experienced hunter. But why would a veteran woodsman make such a basic error? And why didn't the bear act like a bear? The questions remain unanswered. The official report concluded it was a rare accident involving a bear. Still, locals whispered of something else lurking in the woods. Something not like any known animal. A creature capable of crushing its prey, not to eat, but to kill. Was it just folklore? Or did Carl Herrick come face to face with something unknown during his final hunt? The disappearance of Mitty Rivers. On a chilly morning in late 1945, Bickford Hollow, a tranquil region of Vermont, became the setting for one of the state's most baffling disappearances. Mitty Rivers, a 74-year-old veteran woodsman, familiar with every stream and trail in the area, set off on a hunting trip with his son-in-law, something he had done countless times before. As the pair followed a forest path, Rivers said he would scout ahead and return before lunchtime. That was the last time anyone saw him. What made this case so bizarre was the location. He vanished in an area close to roads and homes, not deep wilderness. In such a place, a single shout should have reached someone's ears. Yet Rivers vanished completely, as if the forest itself had swallowed him whole. When he failed to return, his family immediately launched a search. The effort quickly expanded, involving local firefighters, the Vermont National Guard, and even the U.S. military. They scoured every inch of the forest, every thicket and stream bed, but found nothing. No body, no blood, not even a scrap of clothing. It wasn't until May the following year, nearly 6 months later, that a resident stumbled upon a handkerchief stained with distinctive ink, later confirmed to belong to Rivers. It lay deep in the forest, in a location no one could explain. But beyond this small item, no further evidence ever emerged. Several theories surfaced. Some speculated that Rivers, given his age, may have suffered a heart attack or stroke in the woods. But this doesn't explain why his body was never found, especially in a region so close to civilization. A bolder theory suggested he may have been accidentally shot by another hunter, who then concealed the body out of fear. Yet, no evidence ever supported this idea. To this day, Mitty Rivers remains a symbol of the mystery. A man who knew the land like the back of his hand vanished in what should have been one of the safest parts of the forest. Was it an invisible force hiding beneath the calm facade of Bickford Hollow? Or was it simply fate, silently dragging him into the shadows without a trace? The disappearance of Paula Weldon. On the afternoon of December 1st, 1946, the peaceful forested mountains of Vermont were shaken by a strange disappearance. Paula Jean Weldon, 18 years old and a sophomore at Bennington College, left Dewey Hall Dormitory to take a walk on the Long Trail, a part of the Appalachian Trail system. It was a cold day, yet Paula wore only a red parka, sneakers, and carried no gear or hiking equipment. According to her roommates, Paula's behavior that day was somewhat unusual. She normally signed out when leaving campus, but this time she left without doing so, something uncharacteristic of her meticulous nature. She said she wanted a relaxing walk before exams, and no one suspected it would be the last time she was seen. When night fell and Paula hadn't returned, the college contacted the police. A search was immediately launched. A local farmer, Henry Steele, led a search party around Everett Cave and Mount Anthony, areas commonly visited by students. But despite combing the terrain, not a single trace of her was found. The media quickly picked up the story. Paula's photo spread across New England, and hundreds of people, from students to local residents, volunteered to search the Glastonbury Mountain area, where a witness claimed to have seen a girl in a red coat that afternoon. Clues began to emerge, but each led to a dead end. A taxi driver named Abe Ruskin reported having taken a girl who resembled Paula to a bus station, but after seeing her photo, he couldn't be certain. A railroad employee in Springfield and a waitress in Fall River, Massachusetts, gave similar vague testimonies. A contractor named Lewis Knapp said he gave a ride to a girl who might have been Paula near Long Trail, but being colorblind, he couldn't recall the color of her coat. Some witnesses in Woodford Hollow claimed a young woman had asked for directions to the Long Trail, possibly Paula, or maybe just coincidence. At first, it was believed Paula might have gotten lost or had an accident, but strangely, no body was found, no clothing or dropped items, no clear footprints in the snow. Her father insisted she showed no signs of wanting to run away or struggling with mental health. When the case hit a dead end, police began to suspect foul play, though they lacked any concrete evidence. Some theories mentioned a maroon car with Connecticut plates seen near the Long Trail that day, or mysterious footprints on Route 9, but none led to answers. To this day, the disappearance of Paula Weldon remains an unsolved mystery. No suspects, no body, no clues, only the image of a young woman in a red coat, vanishing into Vermont's deep woods like a ghost forever lost. The disappearance of James Tedford. In 1949, Another disappearance occurred within the mysterious region known as the Bennington Triangle. This time, it was James Tedford, a World War I veteran who had suffered severe physical and psychological trauma from the war. After returning from combat, Tedford lived at a care home in Bennington for elderly individuals without family. In late November, he boarded a bus from St. Albans to return to Bennington after visiting relatives. What seemed like an ordinary trip became his final journey. The strange part, Tedford was seen boarding the bus and even spotted seated by other passengers after departure. But when the bus arrived at its final stop in Bennington, he was gone. No one had seen him disembark, and he hadn't exited at any prior stops. His luggage was still on the bus, along with his travel itinerary, as if he had vanished into thin air, leaving only an empty seat behind. It wasn't until 7 days later that the care home reported him missing, far too late to retrace his steps or begin a search. During that time, a few witnesses claimed to have seen a man matching Tedford's description in Brandon, a town more than 40 kilometers from where he was supposed to arrive. The man was reportedly acting strangely, dazed, and seemed unaware of his surroundings. One theory suggests Tedford may have disembarked at the wrong stop due to psychological confusion and wandered off, disoriented. However, it's puzzling that no one saw him afterward, and all traces simply ceased. Though this case lacks the eerie mystique of other disappearances in the region, James Tedford's story remains haunting. A man who survived the horrors of war disappeared quietly on a crowded bus. No goodbye, no clues, no ending. The disappearance of Paul Jepson. On the afternoon of October 12, 1950, a chilling disappearance shocked the community near the town of Bennington, Vermont. The victim was Paul Jepson, an 8-year-old boy described as having intellectual disabilities, innocent, quiet, and easily captivated by small wonders in nature. That day, Paul's mother, who worked as a caretaker at the local dump, left him in a truck while she stepped out to handle some brief tasks, estimating she'd be away no longer than 30 minutes. When she returned, she was horrified to find Paul gone. No sound, no warning signs. Local police, residents, and search dogs were quickly mobilized. The dogs tracked Paul's scent from the truck to a lonely intersection where East Road met Chapel Road, and then abruptly stopped as though the trail had vanished. There was no blood, no drag marks, no footprints, only an eerie silence. Some speculated Paul may have been kidnapped, though no one had seen any unfamiliar vehicles nearby, and no witnesses reported hearing cries for help. There were even rumors that Paul had previously run away from home, though this claim was unsubstantiated and unverified. Given Paul's condition, it was also theorized he may have wandered off and suffered an accident. But if that were the case, why wasn't his body or any evidence ever found, despite thorough searching for days? To this day, no evidence has surfaced to explain what happened to Paul Jepson. A child vanished in broad daylight within a familiar area in mere minutes. The Bennington Triangle, a land already tied to multiple mysterious disappearances, once again swallowed an innocent life, leaving behind an unanswered question that lingers to this day. The disappearance and death of Frida Langer. Also in 1950, on October 28, deep in the remote wilderness near Somerset Reservoir, Vermont, Frida Langer, a healthy and experienced 53-year-old hiker, vanished unexpectedly while walking with her cousin. They were trekking through the rugged area near the lake when Frida slipped and fell into a stream, soaking her clothes completely. Although the campsite was only a few miles away, Frida decided to head back alone to change into dry clothes, while her cousin continued the hike. That would be the last time anyone saw her alive. From that moment, Frida Langer disappeared without a trace. As soon as she failed to return to the campsite, a massive search operation was launched involving police, military personnel, and local volunteers. The forest was combed repeatedly, especially the area around Somerset Reservoir, but for months, not a single clue turned up. Then, on May 12, 1951, nearly 7 months later, Frida's body was discovered near the lake, just about 3.5 miles from where she was last seen. The strange part was that this area had already been searched thoroughly. Why did her body appear only after such a long time? Her remains were severely decomposed, making it impossible to determine an exact cause of death, but no clear signs of foul play were found. A metal surgical plate in her skull from a previous operation helped confirm Frida's identity. Many believe she may have gotten lost while trying to take a shortcut back to the campsite in the dark, eventually succumbing to the cold, as temperatures were extremely low at the time. That remains the most plausible theory. However, what fuels doubt and suspicion is the timing and location of her body's discovery, right in a spot that had already been searched multiple times. Could it be that her body wasn't there during those initial searches? Was it returned later by someone? Or was this simply a cruel trick played by fate? Even though her body was eventually found, the death of Frida Langer remains a somber and ambiguous ending to the series of strange disappearances in the place known as the Bennington Triangle, a land where not everyone who enters manages to return. Among all the disappearances that occurred in the Bennington Triangle, the cases of Paula Weldon, Carl Herrick, and Mitty Rivers are the ones most often remembered, not just because of the bizarre circumstances, but also due to the complete lack of clues and evidence. These people seem to have vanished into thin air, leaving behind a string of questions no one can answer. One critical factor that made these cases so difficult to solve was the limitations of Vermont's investigative forces at the time. The state didn't yet have a professional state police force, meaning that searches and crime scene management fell to local authorities, who often lacked both experience and proper resources. Of all the cases, Paula Weldon's disappearance drew the most public attention, partly because she was a young college student from a well-off family, and partly because the search efforts were bolstered by media pressure. The case even helped accelerate the creation of the Vermont State Police. More than half a century later, these vanishings remain silent shadows in American history. As time moves on and witnesses pass away, the truth, if it ever existed, may be forever lost within the mysterious Glastonbury wilderness.